Apex Legends is a very frustrating game. How am I supposed to shoot this with all the fucking stupid knockdown shields, dude? I ticked one. Oh my, she was ratting the I have one bullet. I'm literally just out of ammo. I have no ammo, man.
Yeah, other team.
Wait, oh, okay, my bad, he is in the corner. Okay, you're literally, there's a corner in that room, you can sit behind the counter and literally safe from every nade and everything in the room. And I literally swung there and missed seeing the bathroom. So what can we do about it? Over my hundreds of hours of coaching various students, I typically find one common thread between all of them, regardless of their skill level. They don't know how to fight properly. So that's why I'm doing a 30-day challenge to improve my fighting as much as possible, and giving you guys a routine to help improve your fighting as easily as possible, using my background as an experienced professional Apex coach. I'm going to spend these 30 days doing 30 minutes of 1v1s before I get on and play Apex for the day. During these 1v1s, I'm going to reflect on what I can do better to focus my practice and help explain to you how you can apply these concepts to your gameplay. So first, let's lay out how we're approaching these 1v1s. I'm going to use R5 Reloaded, a modded client that allows you to play custom games for Apex. It's only available on PC, and you can find install instructions in their Discord. However, console players, don't click away. I have a solution for you as well. I still do 1v1s in the fire range at a much lower frequency, but they can still provide as much value if you can find a friend to consistently warm up with you every single day. In fact, having a second point of view is extremely useful in reviewing yourself and seeing what you're doing wrong, or even common patterns. Just because it's tertiary in this video doesn't mean that it's unacceptable. Lastly, before we get started, if you appreciate in-depth educational content like this, be sure to subscribe. I know everyone in every video you watch tells you to, but that's because reminding you genuinely helps us creators. I also have links to all my other socials in the description below, and if you're looking for a personalized coaching session tailored to you, check out my Calendly in the description below. I have a plethora of other topics to discuss in the future, tailored both towards MNK and controller players. So each week, I want to focus specifically on one aspect of my gameplay that I feel is lacking, and in the very last few days, I'm going to work to tie everything together to see how far we improved. So for this first week, I want to focus on my raw mechanical ability with my aim. So let's go over some appropriate aim theory and discuss what I'm lacking here. I want to use this clip for a really good example of what I'm doing wrong. You'll notice with this spray in particular, my aim is unnecessarily jittery. It's important to know what good form for your aim should look like, and my main error here is trying to aim too much. Let me explain. When you're tracking a target and that target changes direction, it's important that you don't just instantly flick back to the target. Despite common belief, flicking is actually a corrective aim technique used to get back on target when they are a considerable distance away from our crosshair. The problem becomes that we have to exert a large amount of force to move our crosshair so far away so fast, and it's difficult to control that force regardless of your input. Instead, we want to opt to try and smoothen out our aim by deaccelerating at the end of when we track, and then changing direction, then reaccelerating our crosshair speed to catch back up to the target. This results in a much higher uptime when tracking, and even when using a high fire rate weapon like an R99, it can mean that those last few bullets hit to get you the one clip. If this is confusing, imagine your crosshair as a car driving back and forth. Whenever you have to brake, you don't want the car to instantly start and stop, but instead accelerate and deaccelerate. This skill takes some time to acquire, but 1v1s are the perfect environment to master it. So, let me go try and master it for a week and get back to you. Reps one. I cracked you! Oh, that's literally only rep. I just did so much damage. Cheat, mid here.
Defuse one side.
So I'm not gonna lie to you, I was really shocked at the short-term results I saw from starting this challenge. After playing for only 30 minutes a day for 7 days straight, a lot more than just my raw aim improved, but that was the core of my focus. So let me go ahead and answer this question early. Are 1v1s useful to improve at Apex? Yes, absolutely. But let me add a footnote to that. It's really important that when you're doing these 1v1s, you are intentionally attempting to practice certain mechanics and playstyles, not trying to play at full capacity while warming up. A lot of people get really twisted up about their scores and their KD, but it's important to make sure that at the end of the day, you have improved from the start of the day. I see a lot of players tunnel visioning the ball while not considering their goalposts. 1v1s were only so effective for me because I went into them with a learning mindset. Make sure you do the same thing. So, for the sake of not wasting your time, I'm going to combine weeks 2 and 3 before doing another one of those epic training montages, though I do have plenty of gameplay and training footage to show you. For week 2, I wanted to focus specifically on the element of tempo. What is tempo, you might ask? Tempo, specifically in gaming, is a term that refers to who controls the state of the fight by winning. It manifests itself differently in Apex compared to other games by largely considering each player's individual lethality towards one another. This is going to be a little conceptual for a second here, so just bear with me. The term tempo in gaming is commonly used in card games such as Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone. The player who goes first always has the opportunity to play their cards and force the enemy, who's going second, to react. So typically, the player going second gets extra resources to compensate, usually an extra card or two. But in Apex, there is no such mechanic inherent to the game. When you swing someone first, you are typically the one setting the pace of the fight and forcing your opponent to react to you. If you are familiar with Peeker's advantage in tactical shooters, you'll have a decent understanding of this concept already. However, because the player going second in a card game doesn't always lose, even without those extra resources, there are still ways to recover. Let's create a scenario to explain this. We have player 1 who has an R99, a fast-firing, high DPS weapon with a low magazine size, and we have player 2 who has a Spitfire, a high damage overtime weapon with a slow fire rate but a high magazine size. We have to ask ourselves, what kind of engagements do player 1 and player 2 want, and what situations favor what weapons they have? You can even swap out their weapons as you want, give them armor values and different health values, and use this heuristic as an example of understanding tempo. So let's wrap back to 1v1s. How in the world do we actually implement this in 1v1s where we both have the exact same armor value and weapons? Let me use this clip here as an example of exactly how to do this. You can see here, when I'm engaging the opponent, I'm still in control of when and how the opponent peeks me. Because I know we have the exact same resources, this is actually a pretty difficult fight to win, and I don't want to coin flip who hits more shots. Once I've taken the lead with my initial spray, I start strafing back into cover so I can basically cash in my lead. You'll see that the next time we fight, I now start with a huge advantage, and if I maintain control over the fight, I should be able to win, excusing any whiffs or blunders. I also managed to catch him off guard when he's walking up, because he doesn't expect me to re-peek, because we both have R99s. If I had a Spitfire, would the opponent still expect me to peek so quickly? Of course! The gun has a huge magazine size! I also wouldn't have ducked back into cover so quickly. I would have tried to swing wider to get a longer engagement and deny my opponent's space. This is one example of maximizing and managing tempo mid-fight, so you can better control the outcome instead of needlessly swerving throughout the fight and coin flipping who hits more shots. Alright, so that was an absolute handful. I recommend you sit on that idea and practice it yourself because it won't be the easiest to immediately grasp. You should attempt to make mistakes and getting a feeling for how tempo works before just assuming how certain situations will play out. But with just a little more experience, you'll be able to elicit so much control over fights. Now, I promise the last concept I share here is much easier to wrap your head around. For week 3, I wanted to focus on my own strafe. If you know anything about me and my content, I have a deep understanding and specialization into the mechanics of strafe. While I do know what I'm talking about, it's hard for me to execute it properly simply because I don't have enough hours in Apex to regularly showcase it. So I wanted to focus on this one idea in my strafe that I was lacking because it's very fundamental to advanced dodging. This concept is called conditioning. Conditioning is the idea that the best dodge comes from your opponent guessing your strafe incorrectly, and when we should attempt to fake our opponent out. If we try to fake our opponent out too often, not only do we end up losing speed, we get read like a book. If we try and fake out our opponents too late, well, it's too late, and we may have already been hitting for a ton of damage. So there are two times when we can condition our opponent: very early in our strafe or much later. We pick these 2 points for a reason. Very early on, our opponent has no information to guess what we are going to do, and we can abuse common behavior from players to make our opponent guess incorrectly. A simpler way to explain this is that we're peeking out from cover, we can fake as if we are going back into cover, but then actually continue peeking out from cover further to keep line of sight against our opponent. The second time we can condition an opponent is much later in our strafe. At this point, we have already established a baseline for our behavior, especially if you already faked out your opponent earlier. This time, we are actually going to fake them out for the first time, or we are actually going to change direction so our opponent overtracks us, assuming we are going back into cover. Now, it's important that this is not all there is to know about dodge or strafe, as I have many other videos on the topic, and if you want to know some more basics first, I would recommend checking those out. The links to those videos are in the description below, and while you're here, if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. So now, with these two goals for each of our weeks established, let's go practice and play.
Drop the red sun.
90. One. Find us. 80. Dude, I am crazy at this game. Wait, on us. One. Dead.
Touch me on the top of the...
For our last week, I went ahead and tried to tie together all the concepts I practiced in previous weeks to see if I could keep a cohesive flow between the three of them, and it was far easier than I thought it would be. Overall, this challenge was a huge success, and it made my fighting excel within such a short period of time. Just by practicing these three concepts presented in the video, there are a lot more mechanics and ideas you should attempt to practice in 1v1s as well, and I really recommend that you try this out for yourself if you feel like you're struggling to keep up in fights. If you guys have any questions on anything, I'll do my best to read the comments, but the best place to ask them would be in my Discord. I offer free VOD reviews to people who submit within guidelines, and I also have a plethora of other resources you can benefit from that my community is helping evolve constantly. Additionally, I also have a tip jar using Ko-Fi if you found any of this useful. I plan on releasing a video every other week for a while now, and I hope that I can elevate your gameplay to the next level all for free. None of my content will ever be behind a paywall. I hope you guys enjoyed this challenge, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Wraithcrew out.